Hello and welcome to another video. So we're going to be taking a look at a lockdown Shadowcraft deck. So we did a Shadowverse deck last time, but this one's actually quite interesting. And after playing it, I'd say it's got some potential in the current meta, just due to how it runs, I guess. Obviously, a lot of low drops. You're mainly looking at that early mid-range curve, mainly because things like Demon Lord are a really nice closer and very effective against blood decks if pulled off correctly. Other than that, you've got the Dark Alice and the Prince of Darkness along with the Grimnar and Chest of Strength, because once Dark Alice pops, they will be the only 3 cards in your entire deck. So, obviously you want a Dark Alice and Chest of Strength. Those combos together easily lock down board. Your opponent can't do anything. You can pretty much just roll their face repeatedly. The Grimnir Cyclone comboed with the Dark Alice allows you to clear threats along with dealing 4 damage to face that can push you for lethal with the Dark Alice. Other than that, the Prince of Darkness is a 1-card finisher, so you play it out, Dark Alice obviously being your blockade to get Prince of Darkness into hand quite effectively. Play it out, you instantly pretty much can win off that if played right. You do have to get a bit lucky. I didn't find a use for it in the few games that I've played yet, but it's definitely been a card that I can see the potential for when I have it. It's just been the last couple of games I've already been winning before drawing Prince, fortunately. So, your ideal starting is a 1-drop, most likely Skull Beast or Soul Conversion. Either one of those are a fine card to keep in your opener. The Sergeant, Lurching Corpse, Soul Squasher and Demon Eater are the perfect 2-drop combo decks, so any one of these will work really nicely. Demon Eater probably being a little bit better if you already have a Skull Beast or you have a Lurching Corpse in hand. The Demon Eater works really nicely with those, unless you have Soul Conversion, of course, then Demon Eater isn't really necessary. Cyclone can work as just a ward if you do need it. I know some pesky bloods can be a pain, but Grim Cyclone does alright. Test of Strength isn't needed at all. You can pretty much dump that. You only want to really have it once you have Alice, and usually once you play Alice with its effect, you're milling enough cards that you're guaranteed a Test of Strength or a Cyclone 90% of the time, with Prince being like a one-of, so you basically got those as your primary 6 cards left. Zombie Party, solid 2-drop, maybe run it against blood effectively, clear off Tove pretty easily. Necro Assassin works nicely with Underworld Watchman and Lurching Corpse again, another kill combo. Basically allows for double kills, if not single kills, if you have to use it that way. Death's Breath, pretty obvious. The Hector combo is just crazy. Bone Chimera, solid 2-drop. No need for Catacomb, anything like that. And that's pretty much it for the rundown of the deck. So we'll get right into the matches here and we can go over some more. So the first master game I've got here is against a Blood. An okay representation of what you can do if you have a solid early game and being able to push out a solid late push, and the mistakes that Blood can make running Abyss and not expecting you to run Hector at the moment is really quite good. So we start out with an average hand, all 2-drops. The Demon Eater really makes this much better because we do have Lurching Corpse and we do have Sergeant, which are great cards to combo with the Demon Eater for a double draw. Especially that early Lurching Corpse, because Tove cannot compete against a Lurching Corpse Demon Eater combo on the early game, because you can guarantee the trade and a double draw while keeping a 1-2 on board. Of course, we also have the Cyclone, which would have been a nice blockage if we needed it. Of course, they're going to Actress, pretty standard 2-play, well 3-play from Blood if they don't have anything else. Luckily we do have another Demon Eater, so we get to draw another 2 cards. It's a really good thing about this deck. The draw potential is quite high. Being able to have 2 cards that can destroy and draw can really give you an advantage if you get the right hand. We did draw both Demon Lords, which is good but bad as well. Having both of them in your opening hands like this isn't exactly great. You probably want to draw around 5, maybe even 6 if you don't have anything else. Luckily though, the Shadow Gain we have and the Shadow Squasher combos work quite nicely. The one thing Shadow has been doing quite well is generating shadows, especially with this kind of deck setup. You have plenty of cards that get 2-for-1 shadows, such as the Sergeant and the Skull Beast. So they do go for Bahamut. Turn 5, you know, predictive, pretty easy. They're going to go into spawn into the next turn. That's like the most obvious of plays here. They do trade. Not too bad. We do draw a zombie party, which is great because it means we can get rid of that 4-2. Now, the idea here was to go for lethal. So, we have a 4-2 and a 2-2. We can guarantee they were playing Spawn. They played Bahamut. The only other one would have been Phantom Cat. If they had have used the Spawn and traded here, it's the only way they would have had a chance. But then they would have lost out to the Demon Lord anyway, due to its ability with killing it off. So they would have had 8 damage and would have had to try and follow it up with something else, which they just didn't have. Which is why I'm guessing they didn't decide to just hit me in the face. But luckily, that allowed me to easily go for the 12 damage lethal. So, quite a nice game. So we're going to game 2. Alrighty, so the second game is against Rune. Another really solid deck. It's built like a tank, really, you know. Rune has that many good options. So we do go and draw the Demon Eater, the Necro, and the Death Breath. Both of the 2 later drops, not really useful. You really want that early game curve, if you can pull it off. Dark Alice, there's no point keeping it, because if you have it in your opening hand, it just takes up a slot. Like right here, Death Breath and Dark Alice take up 2 slots that right now are pretty useless to me. The only okay part is that I do have Soul Squasher and Demon Eater, meaning that I can at least throw 1 out. I do throw out the Demon Eater, even though Soul Squasher may have been better, just because I know that Mage is a real problem, and Soul Squasher can deal with that if you have enough shadows. So I'm just hoping for a decent draw. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen, so I don't really have a choice but to play Soul Squasher here. I get pretty unlucky, honestly. Not having that combo, just feels really bad. If I had played Soul Squasher last turn, at least I would have had that double draw. Drawing a second Grimnir though, not too bad. Allows me to easily play one out without having to worry too much. Although these Halo Golems, don't like Halo Golem. They trade a little too well, honestly. And the worst part about this hand is even Zombie Party can't deal with that Halo Golem stat line. So that means I have to sacrifice a trade. Fortunately, we can just play Bone Chimera, use Soul Squasher as trade material, and try and get a Death Breath setup going. You know, we can go for 3 with this Soul. We can push maybe 3 with this Bone Chimera if they proc it. If they don't, we just have to try and work with what we've got, unfortunately. Luckily, they don't have anything like Oz, so I don't have any big threats to deal with. Mainly just a lot of little things and a lot of returning and stuff. Which this deck handles quite well, especially since you are aiming for that Dark Alice. So the longer the game can be drawn out with you having 20 health, the better. Yeah, Zombie Party. Easy answer to that card. Play out a zombie, soul conversion it just for the draw. And we get ourselves Test of Strength. So we already have a combo in our hand. We don't need it at this point though. I feel like if maybe I was at 15 or lower health, I would consider playing Dark Alice next turn. But for now, I didn't see the point, so we go for the Zombie Party instead. Otherwise, the Dark Alice would just be a waste. You'd be wasting every single card in my hand right now, outside of Grim Test. And while yes, I may have been able to push more damage, I would have had to take more risk, which I just didn't want to take in this case here. So there was pros and cons to both sides of what I was trying to do here. I didn't want to get transformed because that would screw Dark Alice out really bad, and it's something you've got to be careful of against Rune. So trying to bait out any kind of transformation was kind of the idea I wanted to go for. But getting them down to 16, pretty solid. I mean, worst case, we fall back on the Dark Alice without too much worry. Unfortunately, whoops, due to the banish effect of that, start of their next turn, that gets banished anyway, so I don't need to worry about that. So I want to try and get value out of what I had on board. I didn't want to waste all my shadow cards. I felt like wasting them was just not worth it here. We're already at 20, we're going into turn 10, we've got double Grimnir, Dark Alice, and Test of Strength in hand, along with a Hector. I didn't see the need to do anything else. Now here's probably where I did make a little bit of a mistake. I definitely probably should have went Hector, just because it would have easily cleared off the entire board and filled my board at the same time. I feel like that might have been a better idea. But at the time I was just thinking, hey, we'll go for the Dark Alice now before they can really do anything else, so that was kind of what I was thinking. Fortunately, this Grimnir coming in clutch, clearing off most of their board and letting me just hit him in the face. The biggest loss I would have had is if they could hit me for 7 off that draw. Luckily, all they had was a Grimnir, which means Test of Strength next turn clears me off, allowing me just to block the board. It made this game extremely close. But taking a really nice play with the extra Grimnir, I'm able to just go for game anyway, so the Test of Strength wasn't even necessary, which is a pretty big bonus. And so now we have a Shadowverse Shadow matchup. We do get to go first, which this deck does do quite well with. Again, we get a pretty nice curve with the 2 and 3 drop. We just need to find something to replace the 6 drop here. And Grimnir, not a bad replacement against Shadow. So I wasn't sure what Shadow the opponent was really playing. I knew they'd probably be aiming for some form of mid-range. It's just a matter of what kind of mid-range they would be playing. Fortunately, we don't see any turn 1 play, meaning we do get a turn 2 play against them. And hopefully line straight up into a Bone Chimera while getting 2 shadows already. That extra shadow gain, always nice. So we get the Goblin Leader out. And a nice Necro Assassin trying to snipe off the Goblin Leader, which works like a charm. Sometimes taking those 50-50s is just what you need. Other times you get unlucky and you hit absolutely useless cards. But as you'll see here, their own Necro Assassin does make the perfect shot as well. And fortunately this trade kind of lines up nicely with the Sergeant being able to evolve into a 4/4 and just kill that. Giving me enough shadows to take advantage of Demon Lord by turn 7. Only needing the single shadow to actually gain 9 so we can get a triple what's it called? Triple zombie play. That's what we want. Fortunately though, no big issues. Turn 6, we have nothing. I didn't want to waste Grimnir and I didn't want to play Soul Conversion on Grimnir, so skipping that whole turn just so that I can do something. Fortunately, we don't see too much outside of a 5 damage attack. If they had to evolve, this would have been much more difficult, but they did make it pretty easy on me. I could have went Death's Breath, but Demon Lord just does a double trade and was a much nicer play. Or triple trade once I do use the evolve on the Hector. And Dark Alice is a fine setup next turn if we really want to. And we can use Soul Conversion to filter our deck if we so choose. Mostly removing everything and hopefully drawing into a couple of the other neutrals. If we get lucky. Unfortunately, yeah, that was not fun. Getting that Hector killed so easily really made things more difficult. The lucky part is we do get the Test of Strength in hand, meaning we have no issue with our current hand. Except for the fact that I didn't need to play the Soul Conversion, so I didn't really see the point on doing it if I didn't need to. They do go for the Lurching Corpse, though evolve, getting that 3 damage. Well, 4 once you add that, so they actually go for a fairly large total of damage, putting you down to 4 total. That's a harsh spot to be in, especially if Grimnir does come out. Luckily, Test of Strength, blocking the board, and Zombie Party just being played out. So Zombie Party was the weaker of those 2 plays, mainly because once they get rid of that 5 cost, all the zombies go with it, which I completely forgot about. Even though it doesn't make a big difference because this still wards itself off, making it pretty much impenetrable by this point. So I do get a little unlucky here, honestly. I I really wanted to clear this board off. My only option was to do it this way. I actually should have used Alice to attack one of those 1/1s first. That would have then been able to proc Grimnir, and I would have only had to have dealt with 2 1/1s instead of 4 1/1s. Would have been a much better play. Although the test of strength we have anyway allows us to play it out next turn, defending the entire board again. So all we need in this draw would be a Grimnir, and we're pretty much set. Unfortunately we don't. We get Prince of Darkness, which is fine because we do get that 5 attack from that test of strength dropping that turn, which I completely forgot about at the time. The biggest bonus is this board block really stops them. And we literally have 1 Grimnir, and we had 2 Test of Strengths, I believe. No, 1 Test of Strength, 2 Grimnir in our deck. So the odds of drawing Grimnir were fairly high there. When you've only got so many cards in your deck, the odds of drawing things are really quite easy to work out, so it's really nice. So I want to, I guess, finish this deck off by saying it's a great fun deck to play. I've won a fair few games with it so far in my testing. I'm still in the lower master area just because I've been trying to get some decent game footage of decks and just been getting hammered and hammered trying to play different creative decks. But this is actually pretty solid and quite enjoyable to play. Personally, I had some good luck with it. I haven't seen as much blood around lately as most people seem to complain about. Personally, I'm coming up against 1 in every 4 or so decks being blood and the rest being pretty random. So I'm quite happy with how everything is. Even though we are having nerfs coming up soon, that has been announced, and there will be legendary nerfs. That's going to be exciting to see. But other than that, there's not much to say about this deck. It works as is. There's not much that you can really change. You don't want to be swapping out the legendaries for really anything else. The best thing you could probably swap out might be 1 Demon Lord, maybe swapping 1 Demon Lord and 1 of some other card in the deck for 2 Cerberus and trying to run that. But personally, I think Cerberus isn't really needed for this deck. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below along with the source, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!